Hey everyone, Jim T. Graham with RC Groups. Today, I am joined by Jason Cole. What's happening to Jason?
What's going on, buddy?
Now, normally, first, we want to thank our sponsor, CNHL, who sponsors the RC News, the RC podcast, one and the same. Depends on how you listen or watch. But today we're doing something different. Usually Jason and I will interview someone and we'll talk about their products or we'll talk about an event or something like that. Today, I thought it was important for me to interview Jason, someone who's been in the hobby longer than many people. He doesn't look that way. Jason doesn't look like he's been in the hobby a long time, but that's what we'll start out with, how Jason got in the hobby, how he then transitioned into working in hobby shops, working at Hobby Lobby, and then ultimately where he's sitting today, because there are people in the world who would think this is well, people say it's a dream job. You live in the dream.
Yeah, and it's weird, Jim, because for many years in my career, I was the young guy and like the fresh, hot new stick, and
Right.
and now I've been in it for a very long time, and I feel like I'm the old guard now in the hobby.
Well, I saw Frank Knoll at Joe Knoll, and I said, I've been telling people I'm the new old Frank Knoll because I feel like I'm Frank Knoll's age when I met him 20 years ago.
Yeah, pretty much.
So if you stay in the hobby around long enough, you will be no longer the young guy. You'll be the old guy.
Yep, it happens to the best of us.
Well, let's kick it off with this. And by the way, at the end, there's a couple of things we need to talk about with the AMA. And I was talking to my friend Glenn Hackler, and he has a brand new product he wants to announce. And so we're going to do that at the end of the show. But let's start out, Jason. Let's say you never flew a plane. When did you first see an RC plane and then think, I've got to fly one of those?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't know radio-controlled airplanes existed for a very long time. I had, RC trucks and little Traxxas things or whatever as a kid, but I didn't know the RC hobby, like for airplanes, existed. And I feel super blessed because I was kind of one of those guys who had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I was in college, had no clue. Like, I'm just going through the motions, taking classes, doing some general, like, this could be good later in life. And just happened to walk into the Hobbytown USA that was in the mall in Boone, North Carolina. I was going to Appalachian State University there in North Carolina.
What were you majoring in?
Communications.
Okay, so that's good. Perfect.
Yeah, being able to communicate. It was like, if you don't know what you're doing with your life, take this and it'll come in handy. So that's what. What were you saying?
It did. It came totally in hand. It exactly was perfect for what you've done for most of your career.
Right. Ultimately, I end up using it, which is amazing. But so I walked into the Hobbytown and I was just on a whim, and I saw boxes of airplanes and they had guys radio controlled, and probably Frank Knoll on one of the boxes or Matt Chapman or somebody like that. And I said, this looks stinking awesome. Let me try one. And I bought, I can't remember the name of it, but it was probably some Hobbyco electric, super early days of electric airplanes, supposed to be a park flyer. Couldn't get it to fly, total crap, and crashed it, destroyed it, pretty instantly, like so many newbies do. And I showed my dad, and he said, I've heard about these guys flying sailplanes in the mountains of North Carolina, like about 40 minutes from where we lived at the Lump Overlook. And so we went out there one Saturday, and that's where it all changed for me. Just these guys bungee launching gliders, no motors, and flying for hours, doing aerobatics, screaming down 100 miles an hour, and some of them just chilling, just cruising. It was so peaceful and graceful and majestic, and I was hooked. I was like, I got to do this.
Well, so that's kind of where it all started. So we'll get to Hobby Lobby in a minute, but you've always been the hot stick. Like if there was a plane and a video to be shot, immediately, if David Payne was there, it could be you or David Payne, but there were very few choices of who the best pilots were, and you were definitely usually the one, right?
So yeah, pretty competitive in by nature, growing up playing sports a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say you were a pitcher, yeah.
Yeah.
And because I would always think, why is he so much better? And I think this about guitar players. Is it talent? Is it time? What is it? And I think I always like, well, he was a pitcher. So maybe
Mm.
being a pitcher somehow has something to do with the mentality of being the best on the mound, and on the RC mound as well.
Yeah,
And
it
then,
could be, and, like, growing up with, like, all that eye-hand coordination,
right.
and then playing video games too, I'm sure was a factor. We
The
had, like,
other
an
thing I'll
Atari
say,
and Genesis.
like guys like me and probably most of the people out there my age, maybe not now, not the younger guys, but it was all glow, and you would build a 40 size plane and then you would try to fly it as long as you could before you crashed it in a million pieces. But I think growing up on a slope would be really learning to fly on a slope is a whole nother mindset of you're actually flying the plane the whole time.
Yeah, there's no crutch of power, right? You're fully
Right.
relying on aerodynamics and how a plane works, and you only get one shot at landing it, so you gotta kinda pick up and get really good at it really fast.
It makes more sense now that I've always had theories because Jason and I've been flying together. How many years now? What do you think?
Too many to count.
Well, I've been in the business for 21 years. And so you're at Boone, you're learning how to fly on the slope. Let's talk about, and then you walk into Hobbytown, USA,
Yeah.
and
So
then you
I
get a
walk
job
in.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, so flying those gliders, I'll just tell a real quick funny story.
Okay.
You don't start out as a really great pilot. You start out as a super scared, timid, like afraid pilot, right? So the very first time I took a sailplane up to that hill on the lump, we had one of the experts there take it off for me, get it trimmed out and up in the air. And this is a 2-meter polyhedral Great Plains Spirit, if you know what that is. Super easy, like the easiest flying airplane you could ever imagine.
Right.
And it's literally just sitting there in the
Floating.
lift, just climbing, like hardly moving. And the guy hands me the controller, and I'm just like shaking. Oh my God, I'm gonna crash this thing. This is crazy. And I hand it to him probably 10, 20 seconds later. It's like, here, take it.
Oh, you're scared
So,
to death.
yeah. So, but then you grow from there and you practice,
Right. And then tell us how. P.S. Everyone, if you see me looking down, I've got to tell my son to let the dog in because I can't stand up and let the dog in. But tell us how you then jump from that to actually working technically in the industry if you're working at a hobby shop.
Yeah, so it's kind of like anything, right? If you become super infatuated with something or interested in it, you just want to live in it. Like it's all I could think about for a lot of days and dream about flying. And I was hanging out in the hobby store all the time, buying stuff, talking to people, actually giving recommendations. Like you end up becoming an expert in the thing very quickly because you're so immersed into it. And then finally one day the owner of the store was like, why don't you just put on a shirt and start? And I was like, okay, done. So
How old
started
were you?
working there. I was 20.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
I can totally relate. If it's something I'm into and I'm in a store and I can tell someone doesn't know what they're looking for, it's all I can do not to go over and just start being a salesman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're like, no, you don't want the P-51 right now. You've never flown before. You
Yes.
want the trainer plane. I know it doesn't look cool, but trust me. Yeah. Did all that stuff. And so this was really, it was just a college job, right? I'm still in full-time school and just part-time working. And I was like, I didn't know like there was a career in RC, right?
Sure.
I'm like, this is fun for college, but I'm making probably minimum wage or right at it. And I'm like, I got to have a real job someday. What am I going to do? And I didn't know.
Work at a bank. Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because is this the time when you're in the hobby and then you walk into Hobby Lobby, or did that happen like years later?
Yeah. So it wasn't long later, but I ended up joining like the club, like Glow Powered. We had a, real kind of RC club there in Boone and started flying gas planes and Glow and got into profile planes, 3D flying.
How did you get into profiles, by the way?
Those guys brought me to Joe Nall for my very first Joe Nall, 20 something years ago. And that's where I saw Kike, Simonzini and some of the top dogs flying, 3D flying. And that's mind blowing. First time you ever see that, big giant gas airplanes hovering, touching the tails on the ground, doing demos at Joe Nall. That changes your life. I mean, that's amazing.
And people today, our new pilots, can't relate to this, but that didn't exist. It wasn't a part of RC. And then 3 minutes, into us, Jason and I's RC, not career, but our hobby, all of a sudden, this is a thing now. And I'll also say, because this is kind of where I jumped on the bandwagon. This is how I got into Hobby Lobby. But people said 3D was going to ruin the hobby. You know, you're running the hobby. But anyway, so you see this and you're like, I got to do it.
Yeah, like I got to do that. And I'm a poor college student working a part-time job. Don't have, you know, thousands of dollars to spend on a giant scale airplane to do that. So that's where profile planes come in, like a couple $100 for an airframe. You get an OS 46 engine and you're good to go, man. You can do all the 3D you can handle.
And then when you crash
I started flying that.
Usually everything can move over to your next profile plane. So you just have to build a new plane, take all your gear and stuff it in that one.
Yeah, or figure out how to repair it. And then, so that's right about the time I joined RC groups, you know, as a member, because I'm like, oh, this is where all the information is. I get to talk to my people, you know, and learn things and grow. And that's where I found out about the Profile Brotherhood, which is your brainchild and creation, and joined up. It was just a bunch of fun guys, like thrashing profile planes, 3D, hovering, all that fun stuff. And I was so in it at the time, you know. And then I found out, hey, there's this event going on in Nashville, Tennessee, which is like not that long of a drive, 5-6 hours away. And I'm like, I'm going to this event. Like, I'm going to go meet these characters, this Billy Hell guy that I've heard about for so much. And
it was a pack of characters, that is for sure.
That's for dang sure. And so I come out to the event and we have a ball. And you were working at Hobby Lobby at the time as the PR marketing guy. And you know, you said, let's go see the store. So you gave me a tour, and I got to see Hobby Lobby and met Randy, the sales manager, and we got to talking.
I heard you talking to Randy, and all I heard was that you worked at Hobbytown. I overheard it through there used to be a cork board between the back and the lobby, and we would stand there sometimes and just hang out. And I heard you say that, and I walked back to the vice president's office and I said, there's a guy in the lobby and you should go hire him now. And
yeah, they offered me a job and I eventually took it, and started working there in sales, became the assistant sales manager for a time. You left to kind of do your own thing at one point, and then I kind of transitioned into the marketing position, and did marketing, did product development, some web stuff, just did a lot there. I worked there for almost a decade. And
so here are some pictures. Now you can't zoom in on these things, but every Wednesday as a team, as a group, we would go out and fly new airplanes, fly our favorite airplanes. And so Jason, you were flying the Crash 3D in these photos.
Yeah, that was the amazing thing about that job. It was, I just, again, feel so blessed to be able to have done that, because we were flying all kinds of cool stuff that I would never have gotten a chance to fly otherwise, right? We're doing prototype testing, design work, you know, working with the factories in China, and getting to play with all these cool airplanes that I wouldn't otherwise purchase, you know, myself or get to play with. So that was a ton of fun back in those days.
Here is a surprise. I don't know.
Oh my gosh!
In this video. So this is this is kind of mid-tier. This is after I've left, and this is a tour of Hobby Lobby back in the day.
Wow! Yeah, look at that. Boy, that brings back memories. It's kind of one of the tech benches right there.
This is shipping.
Yeah.
And so one cool thing that we used to get to do is at some point in the week, a shipment would arrive of prototype airplanes, and they might come in from Europe or Germany or both. And Mike would open the box and we would all stand around and just be like, see something no one's ever seen before in this country. And then we get to go fly it. You know, it was a really cool job.
And that floor there, if you look closely, you might see bloodstains from where I cut my thumb almost off and dripped like gallons of blood all over the floor. But so this is where, like, this was the photo room and kind of build area. We did a bunch of videos down here. Wow, this is crazy. That was one of the first, that quadcopter, that was an octo or a hex. I couldn't tell. That was before drones were drones. Like, we were building drones, calling them multi-rotor helicopters.
You sold that to me for $500, I think.
Oh yeah, crazy.
And the thing that really hits me about this time in the hobby is what an operation that was,
Yeah.
with a dedicated photography room and uh, people on the team that shot videos and other people that shot pictures. And it was really, if you look back on it, I was telling my wife today, it was quite a thing.
Yeah, and logistics of parts and ordering and shipping and doing all that mess, like, that's a lot. It's a big business.
So you did that. Let's see what is next. Okay. So how long were you with Hobby Lobby, you think?
I think it was just over 9 years.
Wow, that is a long time, bro.
And throughout that time, I'd go to all the events. That was another thing. I get to go to China and see the factories. I got to go to travel all over the world and do fun things and go to RC shows and Joe Nall and Seth and the Ram show in Toledo and all this cool stuff. And I distinctly remember because we were probably RC Group's largest site sponsor during a lot of this time.
Yes.
Right. So we spent a lot of money with RC Group. So I would talk to you a lot. I'd talk to Jim Bork every once in a while and, send out planes to reviewers, which now I manage those guys, which is kind of cool. But, doing the marketing for Hobby Lobby. And I remember sitting down on the grass at Joe Nall talking to Jim B. And, trying to hire me to come work. And I was like, nah, I love what I do. This is super fun. I don't want to leave. And then I guess he kept wearing me down. And one day I said yes.
So I would say, Jim, we got to hire Jason. And he'd be like, he doesn't want to do it. And this was years that I think we tried to hire you for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it seems like that. Yeah, definitely.
I believe the day that you said yes was at Toledo. I could be wrong. I think we were sitting around a little round table on the outside eating area, and you said yes, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it was a big step for me because Hobby Lobby was my first real job, quote unquote, after college. Right. And I mean, you get to do all this cool stuff and be in the hobby and make a living. I'm like, this is awesome.
We can say it now, though.
Big step for me.
Hobby Lobby was busy unfolding itself into oblivion at that point in the game. So making a jump was probably a smart move.
Yeah. I think it was the right time. I think I made a smart decision there, but it was a big step for me personally in my life,
And so we'll jump over to this, which I believe, I'm certain, of course, that I made this when you hired on. Is this what you were talking about when I
yeah.
So this is that drone that I believe was in the photo, but it's definitely the one I'm pretty sure that I wound up purchasing. And look, you're like 13 years old when you joined us.
Little baby.
And that would be at Seth, maybe?
Oh, yeah, that is Seth. Yep.
And then, man, I'd like to fly that right now. So this is a picture when he came into town that day to fly with the Pro Bros. And there are some, there's Gator and Swanee and Jess.
Oh, yep.
So, and we should be seeing Gator again. Whoops, that is not what I meant to do. We should be seeing Gator again this year. And of course, you spent a lot of time at events flying with my kind. So you guys would go to the event, bring all the airplanes, and then fly them at noontime demos and just fly them for the whole event.
Yeah, that was such a fun time. Again, blessed to be able to go to those shows. But yeah, flying demo for huge crowds of people and all that stress and pressure. And I loved it, though. It was a great time.
Yeah, and this is a whole thread here. Let's see what else we have. Oh, well, and so you're working for RC Groups now.
Yep.
And you were a slope pilot, and then you were a 3D pilot. And at Hobby Lobby, you were an everything pilot because you had to fly everything, right?
Yeah.
But now, would you say at this point in the game, your love is sailplanes?
Yeah, I think it always has been my favorite, even like from the very beginning. It's how I started. It's always kind of been the thing that I enjoy the most, but I've loved it all. Like I've flown 3D helicopters, we've flown 3D airplanes, we've flown scale stuff, literally everything you can imagine, all the wacky, weird types of airplanes. But sailplanes was always my passion. And I was kind of a little bit snub-nosed to thermal flying. because I didn't really love thermal flying and do it much. I was a sloper, right? I wanted to get on the slopes
Power and
and fly all
speed.
day
Yeah.
and do combat with EPP planes and have fun and do all that stuff. And I was like, that's boring flying, thermal duration sailplanes. That's boring. That's how naive I was back then. You just don't knock something until you try it, folks. Because once I tried it and got into DLGs, that was, man, a whole nother level. It was so fun.
And so that led to this, you making the U.S. F3K World Championship team.
Yeah, so more of my competitive nature, I think, coming out and being able to fly competitions with sailplanes. It's just fun to do it, whether you win or lose. Doesn't matter. You can't lose if you're having fun. That's my motto. But yeah, I feel like I try to do things well, and so I got training from Peter Goldsmith on how to launch a discus launch glider properly, and just kind of built on that skill and then just knowledge of the air and how to fly, and became quite good at flying sailplanes, and still to this day I enjoy it a lot. I'm going to a competition later this month for another one. Was at one last month, and it's something I'll probably continue to do until I can't see anymore.
And just to give a little organic side to being mentored by guys like that, I believe the day that happened, we were at Ceph, and
Yep.
it was the evening, was starting to just break, and all these discus launch gliders started coming out in the back field. And when we were talking, some of the greatest DLG pilots, at least in America, were standing all in one place. So
Yeah.
that's another perk of working for a company that sends you to events, is you then get to learn from the very best,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, again, it's like you kind of take it for granted in the moment, but then when you look back on it, you're like, wow, that was really incredible.
I don't want to take away from your story, but there is a sidebar story here. That same evening, I believe it was Rojo from Horizon had a carbon fiber DLG, and you must not know what I'm about. Now you know. And
Yep.
we're all back there. It's beautiful and serene and just slowly gliding and catching and throwing. And I was like, this is awesome. And I was, I think I shot a video of this, but he launches right into a power line. It sounded like a cannon went off. There was a big puff of black smoke. And this is the best part. His DLG delaminated and went from a fully formed airplane to just a bird's nest of carbon fiber hair, and it just fell to the ground. It was awesome.
Craziest thing I've ever seen, man. Amazing.
He did not think it was funny as I did. He didn't
Yeah.
appreciate
$1,000 airframe. Just go. Don't hit power lines. Name of the game there.
So, now I know how many years. I know how many years I've been at RC Groups. How many years have you been at RC Groups now?
This is year 11 or 12. I think I started in 2013.
Right.
So probably going on 11 here in next month, actually. Yep.
It's really crazy the amount of time that's gone by, especially when I look at photos and think, wow, that was 10 years ago,
Yeah. I was super nervous because, part of the job was, writing articles, right? News articles, how-tos, reviews, industry stuff, whatever. And basically write an article a day. And I'm like, that's a lot of writing. Like, this is how
I remember both of us were like, what are you even talking about, Jim Burke?
Yeah. And 12 years later, still doing it every day. There's just always stuff to write about. So it's like, I don't know, I enjoy sharing like my passion and things I think are cool and fun and unique in the hobby, and just be able to do that. There's always news, there's always events, there's just always something to talk about in the hobby. So it's been not too difficult even over this amount of time. So pretty cool.
So let's get to now. Your favorite plane right now. What's your number one favorite plane?
That's a tough question.
What if you had to go to the beach?
I'm taking my my CX-5.
Okay.
And it's that DLG you saw there.
What's your favorite drone?
Favorite drone, I think right now it would be the DJI Avata 2.
The new one you got.
The newest one. Yeah.
I should have bought your old one. But I will share with everyone that my house is about 2 miles from the airfield that we fly at. And so I got a call and it was Jason and he goes, come to the field right now. You've got to see something. I don't even know how long ago this was. It was the first FPV vehicle. It was a quad, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the first FPV I'd ever seen in real life. And this predates like things you might see on the internet. And I don't even know, maybe I'd heard of it, but I certainly had seen no videos on it or anything. And so to be able to put the goggles on and you fly me around, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, FPV was just beginning. There were cameras, there were transmitters and receivers and some monitors. Like, it was very early days of FPV, and it wasn't being like mass marketed or put together very well. You had to kind of like ultimate like enthusiast hobby level, like make it work and put things together to make work. So that was Jay, the CEO at the time.
After Jim Martin.
Yeah. And so we got to work. I was part of the team that worked and brought that together. We brought the first ever like complete package for FPV. Like, you buy this box and you can just use it on just about any airplane you got, and then you can fly it FPV. And I think I came up with a name. I called it Pilot View.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
From Pilot View FPV. So it was cool. I was like, yeah, there at the very beginning of early days of drones and FPV and all that stuff. So
it's funny because so many things have happened in all these years, but that's one, like if you had a little marker in the hobby, that is definitely a marker for me where things went bleep. It's like at Hobby Lobby, just in case you don't know, there was a time where everything was brushed and there were no lithium polymers. And then Hobby Lobby was the company that went to Europe and we sold all those things. And that would be a marker in the hobby where electric went non-viable, 100% viable, and now more viable than almost everything except giant scale, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Pretty
incredible
amazing.
How it's changed.
Okay. So you're into 3D printing, you're into drones, you're into sailplanes, you're into crashing mountain bikes. Joke. And I don't know where in your hobby right now, is it well-rounded? Do you try to do, is it a multitude of things that you juggle that you've obtained over all these years?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you kind of just do things and go where your heart goes, and so yeah, so riding bikes just helps me get outside and be active, because RC hobby is not a very active sport.
Yes. Or working at RC groups, not a very active sport.
Yeah, sitting in a chair all day. So yeah, to be able to go out and do something that's fun and athletic and gets my body moving. So that's kind of the main reason why I do that. But yeah, still go out and fly. I'll meet up with a buddy. There's another glider pilot in town, Scott. We'll go and we'll fly like mock F5J competition rounds at the field by his house and practice and fly drones and you know, just do cool stuff like that. So just still kicking around, having fun.
All right. Well, that is the career of Jason Cole from start to finish. We saw it in my interview here. I've sort of interviewed you in the past, but I thought to myself, you know, I don't know if I've ever done a real interview on you, and who better than me to interview you? So I appreciate you saying yes to the whole concept.
Yeah, man. Appreciate the time, and it's just fun to just share and tell my life story, you know, cool stuff.
Yeah. Jason Cole, just Google Jason Cole RC and you can go see all kinds of stuff. Now, before we get out
and
of
I'm
here,
not the mayor of Laverne, Tennessee, because there is
I saw
a mayor named Jason Cole.
I also saw an obituary, which sometimes I'll see for myself, and I'm like, that is a very sobering thing, the obituary with your name on it. It'll keep everything in perspective.
Hopefully that's a ways off still.
Yes. Let's take a look here. There's only a few things I need to talk about. One thing for next week, on Tuesday, I'm scheduled to get with Randy Cameron of the AMA, and he is going to walk us through, if you have an event in a pasture and it's not a, you're just like, you're having this event. Okay, let's just put it this way. I'm having an event in a field and I need to get all the correct approvals for certain heights. And I don't want people to have to run gadgets on their airplane so he's going to show us what you have to do and then what we have to do to get up to 1,200 feet so that we can get above 400. And from what I'm reading, it's not that difficult, but I don't know how to do it. And I've got to have it done by September. So we're going to have a whole video on that next week. So watch out for that.
That's going to be interesting.
Yes. And hopefully we do it on the video, so it'll be done, you know.
There you go. Yeah.
The other thing about the AMA is I've been talking to Mark and some of the folks down there. There's the 2024 National Flunfly, June 28th through the 30th. And it's at the Air Modeling Center in Muncie, Indiana. I've got a whole feature right here. I'll put a link down below. And you can go check it out and go join them and tell them Jim T sent you.
Oh, yeah. I've got some breaking news for the AMA site in Muncie there right now.
Okay.
I learned this. Well, it's not breaking news. I learned this at the competition I was at a couple weeks ago. Muncie is going to be hosting the F3K World Championships.
That would be
so in the United States. It's like in 20. It's like a ways off. It's like in 2 or 3 cycles, like in 2027 or something.
Okay.
So it's still a ways off. But I'm like, it's awesome because normally it's over in Europe, and so
yes.
And it's coming to the U.S. I'm like, that's awesome. Whether I make the team or not, I'll get to go and still be there and support everybody and have fun. So,
and by then you'll be flying senior division, so you know you'll probably be in it. I'm joking. I don't know I don't know anything about all that. Well, one more thing. I was on the phone yesterday with Glenn from RC Plane Stands, and he said, Jim, I want you to do an article on this new stand that I've created. So this, if you've ever seen a road case for a rock and roll band, this is the same wood used for road cases. So that means it's waterproof and scuff resistant and all that kind of good stuff. Here's a close-up of it. And he's just starting to make these. I'm going to do an interview. We're going to talk about it and take a look at it up close. And he wanted to make sure I let everyone know about that. I feel like there's one more thing, but there's probably not. Keep an eye up here for our features and articles per usual. And I believe that is it for the news this week. I want to thank everyone that hangs out on RC Groups, that watches our videos, and also our sponsors that help not only support RC Groups, Flying Giants, and Heli Freak, but also the hobby by creating all the stuff that we use to enjoy ourselves out in the field with. Jason, any news for you? Are you headed to any events or going to be?
The next competition is the House Mountain RC in Knoxville, Tennessee, a couple weeks.
Awesome. All right. Well, man, I want to thank you, Jason, for letting me go over your history. I wasn't sure if you'd be cool with that or not, so I sure appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Good times.
All right, y'all, hit the subscribe button and be sure and share this video. We want to share all the RC info and knowledge and just make the hobby bigger. I'm Jim T. Graham. That's Jason Cole. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Nice. Never works for me. RCGroups.com. Bye.
Bye.